So did you hear that Google added the ability to make Android apps from AI Studio? What's that mean, right? Who's that important to? I think it's pretty cool, but let's talk about what it is and what it isn't. So I want to show it to you real quick. So basically, AI Studio is a way for you to use their web interface to come in and prototype apps. You can build Google integrations and get fully functioning web apps pretty quickly. It's pretty cool. So I came in here and I clicked on I'm feeling lucky a few times and I got to one that seemed interesting. Here's a photo tourism app. Take a photo in the city, and AI recognizes the landmark, fetches its history via search, and then shows an augmented reality style narrated clip. But this is the cool part, make it an Android app. That's awesome. So I got really excited when this first came out, and I played around with it a bunch, and I kind of just wanted to share with you some of my notes on what it is and what it isn't. Um, so let's go through it real quick. What is the upside to this? So what Google's actually solving is just the scaffolding to get started, right? So when you come in and you've got an idea and you want to get started, and the worst part is getting your environment set up, getting Android Development Studio installed on your computer, installing the SDK, installing emulators. There's a ton of work that goes into just getting started to build an Android app. But how do you know you have a good idea yet, right? How do you know that this is something you want to pursue? That's where this tool comes in. And I think that this is really exciting. I honestly do. So let's go through it real quick. So you just need something simple, right? You want something that's customized to you. Maybe you've got a use case in mind and you want to build an app and have a few people test it and determine if it's worth pursuing. So rather than spending half your day doing boilerplate, you can get in here and spin up an idea very quickly. So the four main things that are important is that this is using native code, using Kotlin. It's got browser-based Android emulation. That's awesome. You can install it directly to your device. So if you have an Android device, you can plug it in via USB, turn on debugging, and install the app straight to your phone. And then you can push it to a Play internal test track, which allows you to give it to test users, all from a web interface. So this is pretty exciting, I think. So step one is you come in like any LLM, you're going to describe your app. You're going to give it the prompt and the constraints. What sort of API access does it need? Does it need any sort of integrations? And initially you can run it in the browser and click around, see how things work, run into any errors that happen, and troubleshoot things all while still in the web interface. When you're ready, you can install it on your phone. Now you get to test it on a real device with real sensors and hardware. So camera, GPS, all that stuff. So it'll actually run, it's installed on your phone. You could honestly just leave it like that. That could be your app that you made and you're all done. Step four is you can give it to other people to test. Like they can actually have it in their hands and test your app and you can get real world feedback. So the thing that we want to make sure we're clear on here is that this isn't full blown production, right? This is for prototyping. It's for getting an idea into reality quickly. So the analogy here is that Android apps and AI Studio is the front door. It's not the whole house. So this gets you into that world. It gets you off the starting blocks, right? So your app has begun, you're building it. Once you have something that you're ready to take further, they give you export functionality where you can take it from the web browser and put it into GitHub for code tracking. You can use your favorite coding agent like Anti-Gravity, Claude Code, Codex, whatever you're into. And that's when you really start getting into the weeds of all of the production level things that need to happen with an app before you can release it. So we'll get into some of that. The most exciting part is the difference between this and a web app. So you can make a progressive web app and install it on your phone. You've been able to do that for a long time. This has access to the camera, the GPS, Bluetooth, the accelerometers, offline support. So anything where you need device level access, you can now do through AI Studio, like through these prototypes. But what's important here is that if you don't need these, this is a good way to evaluate that and determine, hey, maybe this is just a simple web app. Maybe you don't need a full-blown mobile application for this, because then you have device support, you've got, iOS and Android. So maybe it's not worth the headache. So in terms of demo apps, I think the important thing here is that this isn't just for your standard to-do app. If you've done application development in the past, the to-do app is essentially the hello world of application development, right? It's just a way of managing state, completing, checking things off as done, which updates the state, and seeing if you can persist between sessions. So you can go far beyond that with this. You can really get something in the hands of your users that feels ready to use. So think in terms of, small internal tools, things that you might need in your day-to-day workflow, things where there might be an app that exists, but maybe it's overly complicated for what you need. Or maybe you just want to build something because you want to see if you can. So a gym attendance tracker is a great example, right? You want to hold yourself accountable. Maybe the apps out there have subscriptions or payments, and you're thinking, I just want to make sure I go to the gym every day or every, 3 times a week, whatever it is. Build yourself an app, hold yourself accountable. Maybe you build in GPS and check in at the location. Having a contractor punch list, that's getting into the professional realm. The idea is that these aren't billion-dollar apps. They're day-to-day utilities that you could hop in here and make yourself. And then, like I said, the beauty is that it's on your phone today. You go in, you put in the prompt, you let Google handle it on their end, on their cloud compute, and within 30 minutes, you're putting an app on your phone. That's pretty impressive. And you get real feedback from your users, like things that, when you're building something, you don't always see the flaws, right? You're too close to it. Handing it to somebody else and seeing them use it and understanding, wow, that's not as clear as I thought it was. Or, in this example, the button is too small, they couldn't find it, or the tap target was hard to hit. And you can test these fringe use cases, right? So, does the app, for example, have to have perfect data? What happens if it returns a null object for one of the pieces of data? Does it fail? Does it gracefully degrade? What happens? So when you're doing testing like this, it's humbling. You'll learn humility very quickly. You'll learn to know that showing this to someone else and letting them use it is the fastest way to find the imperfections. This slide is an important distinction here because we're talking about how AI can generate the code, but it's not production ready. This is meant to be a first step in getting your app to production. So the AI can generate the code to ask for the camera access. That doesn't mean that you should. This one is important. It can build a login screen, but it does not mean you have a safe authentication model. You can publish internally to an internal track for testing, but it hasn't handled yet your privacy policy, the data safety policy, age ratings, all the things that you as the developer are responsible for when you launch an app. So the number one thing I want you to take away from this is use this for speed. Don't use it as an excuse to skip the responsibility that goes into the development process. Be specific when you're setting out with your goal. The more specific you are with the task you're trying to accomplish with the app, the more likely you are to get closer to the result that you're looking for, and you'll save a few rounds of iteration by asking upfront for what it is you need. So for example, don't say, build me a business app. Do say, build me a 2-screen Android app for field inspections. Describe the screens, maybe provide some examples so you can give context, and you're going to be much happier with the result a lot faster. Test the things that are not perfect. They say the happy path, test the ugly paths. Deny permissions when it's requested. What happens to the app? If the app requires camera access and I deny it, what happens? Does it ask again? Does it break? Try rotating your screen, see what it looks like. Turn off the network, see what happens. And again, the last one is hand it to somebody else who didn't develop it. They didn't write the prompt. Let them experience it and see if it works the way you hope it would. The idea here is to get your ideas off the sketchpad and into reality on a device. So Android Studio is fast tracking you to getting to a point where you can export the code to your code editor, start tracking it in GitHub, tracking your feature branches, opening it in your favorite coding agent. Like I said, you can use Anti-Gravity, Cloud Code, Codex. So what does this update replace? It does not replace Android developers. It replaces the starting from scratch hurdle. It gets you off the starting block and gets you working faster. So now that you've fast tracked getting your app prototyped, you've seen the visuals, you've done some of the design, you've seen the flow of the app, you've gotten feedback from potential users. Now it's time to export that code and take it into your code editor and start worrying about things like authentication, database backend. Do you need payment integration, app store approvals? There's still a lot of work to be done, but this gets you that initial momentum that hopefully you need to take your project to that next level. So if you have an idea that's been sitting on your backlog of things you'd like to build and you think, well, I'm not an Android developer, we're getting closer. One of the things that gets me most excited about this, honestly, is the idea that one day we're going to have the ability to just open your phone and ask for a particular type of app, right? So maybe I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to go grocery shopping later today. And I live in between 3 different grocery stores. So I want to give you my grocery list and have you have the app price shop for me and say, hey, get your produce here, your meats here, and your dry goods here because those are the best prices, right? And that's something where it's personal. It's too specific to really wait for a developer to come along and solve that problem for me. But I think we're going to see a future where I can just open my phone, ask for a particular app, wait 5 minutes, and have it. I think this also obviously opens up the door for people to build their own apps and potentially, start businesses or make money, make profit. But what I'm seeing here that gets me excited is the democratization of development to where normal people in their day-to-day lives can start solving their own problems with code. And to me, that's the most exciting part about AI in general. And I'm glad to see it coming to mobile because I think there's going to be a lot here that we're going to discover. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got any questions, drop it in the comments. If you'd like to see me build a demo app, drop it in the comments. I'd love to. So thanks so much. Bye.